Established in 1980, Sandy Spring Museum was founded largely to preserve the history of the area's dominant white Quaker culture. When Black history was shared, it was usually through the lens of Quaker abolition and manumission. The museum's archives are filled with documents that were donated to us by white families, and so we always assumed the archives only documented white history. For example, let's look at an archival document related to Joshua Pierce, a Quaker landowner who moved to the area from Philadelphia in 1822. Pierce and his family settled on his wife's inherited land, known then as Brook Black Meadow and later as Riverton, a farm and mill located along the Hollings River in Brighton, Maryland. In our collection, we have two account books in which Joshua Pierce tracked the running of his farm's business. The metadata, that is, information used to describe this item, is applied according to Joshua Pierce's lived experience. Our online platform allows us to group items that share the same metadata, for example, all of the Pierce family documents, and all of the documents related specifically to Joshua Pierce himself. Because the item is described according to Pierce's lived experience, what is not clearly communicated is Pierce's dependence upon the labor of free blacks to run his farm and household. How do we know this? Because if you go through his ledger page by page by page, you will eventually come across people who are identified as black laborers. Look at this. Here's Alan Dorsey and William Bowen, both of whom are identified as black by Joshua Pierce. These pages, however, are essentially unfindable unless you have the time to look through over 100,000 pages in the museum's digital archives. The museum's mission is to advance social equity. We must therefore ask whether it is equitable when Black history cannot be located as easily as white history. We didn't think so. So what did we do about it? Equity and metadata. We discovered that in dozens of account books from stores, a local doctor, and various area farms, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of direct references to Black men and women in our archives. Not every person of color was identified as such in these books as Alan Dorsey and William Bowen were, so we turned to census data to cross-reference every name we mentioned in the ledgers, making sure no one was missed. We eventually compiled a list of over 450 Black men and women who appear on the pages of our historic documents. We then digitally extracted every page associated with specific Black names and created new digital items. So, William Bowen, as he appears in Joshua Pierce's book, now has his own digital item. Because our goal was to center the stories of these individuals, we also devised a way to manipulate the image, highlighting the relevant content so the viewer's eye is immediately drawn to it. Through our partnership with the statewide digital preservation program called Digital Maryland, we use the content management platform, ContentDM, to apply metadata to these new digital items. So now, let's see what happens when we look for William Bowen. This item, created by extracting pages from a larger document, now has descriptive metadata according to William Bowen's lived experience. We are also directed to records of Bowen's extended family, as well as items created from other ledgers related specifically to William himself. So now, Black descendants can directly access digital items related to their family history, just as white descendants can. Speaking of descendants, their participation was critical in bringing an authentic voice and appropriate terminology to how we described the lives of their ancestors. The posted descendant statements acknowledged that there were historic inequities in both how people were treated and how their lives were nearly erased from history, something Equity in Metadata is hoping to change.